Sometimes I catch myself scrolling on social media and I really just look at my phone and I ask myself, how am I even addicted to this thing? I have this entirety of the world around me, and this small item, maybe 6 inches in diagonal length, is keeping me addicted to one place. And I wonder how. And then you look at it in comparison, and then you see like this is what we have in front of us. Whereas we have our entirety of our peripheral vision, our screens here to look at the world in front of us. Yeah, we get stuck on this little thing. 2 years ago, I would spend so much time on my phone, maybe half a day, every single day on my phone. I would stay up late nights, 12, 1, 2, 3 a.m., just on my phone. There were nights where I stayed up so late and got up so early because of school that I would go into school, I'd be sitting in my lessons and I would just doze off. I actually remember this one time where I was in a PE GCSE lesson and I stayed up basically the whole night, maybe 4 or 5 a.m. around the time that I wake up now. I'd stayed up then just to watch YouTube videos, just to scroll TikTok, just to scroll Instagram Reels. And when it came to the lesson in the morning, just constantly throughout the lesson. And eventually my teacher noticed because there was the one time I couldn't catch myself. And I was laying there, not on the desk, just on my arm like this. I was laying there. And he shouted my name across the room and I got up, I was like, yeah. And he said, are you sleeping in my class? And I said, no sir, no sir. He said, oh, you didn't get enough sleep last night? What were you doing? And I lied to him saying that I was revising. And then he emailed my parents to take the load of revising off of me so that I would get more sleep. I really let all the factors in my life fall down just because of my phone addiction. My sleep, my eating, my work, my exercising, everything fell down because of my phone addiction. I'm not the kind of person who wants to throw his phone out of a fucking window. There's times I'll catch myself randomly scrolling by accident. I'm not on it very much, but when I do and I sometimes end up scrolling, I catch myself and I just want to throw my phone across the room. And I've done that a couple of times because it does annoy me. So when I do catch myself doing this stupid shit, getting addicted to another fucking app, I have to catch myself and throw it away because I know it's bad for me. It's actually insane how far this addiction has come, by the way. The amount of times I've seen in the gym where someone's doing an exercise and they're trying to watch a TikTok at the same time. You know, there's an ab machine, right, in the gym that I go to, where you'll grab like this and then you have like a pad over your chest over here and you'll crunch down over it. Someone had their phone in one hand here, phone in here. They were watching a TikTok while crunching down on the machine. There was another one. There's this exercise called concentration bicep curls where essentially you lean over your leg and put your arm in the middle, one of your arms in the middle of your leg, and use it as like a lever to help you, do your bicep curl. While he was sitting on the edge of the bench, he had his phone on the floor on TikTok auto scroll while doing his concentration curls. That's so fucking ironic, by the way, because you're supposed to concentrate on the muscle, not on a fucking TikTok. This phone addiction has come too far for most people. So there's actually some ways that can help you eliminate this phone addiction. But you're going to have to listen, you're going to have to concentrate. So I want you to go down there and click on full screen. Stop looking at your suggested videos and stop looking at the views. Just focus and listen, okay? These are genuinely ways that you can cut out your phone addiction. This is how I did it, so you need to understand. So I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to tell you how, right? We're going to start with why. There's 3 reasons, okay? It's either that you're bored, or it's either that the tasks that you have in front of you are too difficult, or 3, you're anxious. Those are 3 reasons I think there's a phone addiction. Let's start with boredom, right? If you don't have tasks to do, and you don't have something to work on, you don't have a purpose, you don't have anything to put your efforts towards, and you're sitting around doing nothing, your brain's going to want dopamine, your brain's going to want that feel-good hormone, and your only course of action towards that is simply going on your phone and scrolling on TikTok, and scrolling on YouTube and Instagram, because that's where your dopamine will come from, and that's your only supply of dopamine. And that's cheap dopamine, which means it won't last long, and it will actually crash you lower, and it will actually crash you lower than your baseline. So cheap dopamine is not worth it. Now, I mean, how do you fix boredom? I mean, it'd be the opposite of being bored, isn't it? You need to find things to do. Things that have a purpose. So I know it's a lot about, oh, just find something to do, just do some work, but it's like, find something that has a purpose behind it. Something that you feel like would be impactful to you, your family, and your friends, and the world around you. Something that gives you motivation to get up and do work because you know it has an impact, you know that it has a feeling, and you know it's helping the people around you. And that's your motivation. That's your motivation to get up and do the hard things and to do some piece of work. So that's one way that you can stop boredom, because then you're keeping yourself occupied to do a certain thing. And that's where your motivation comes from anyways, because it's purposeful. You could also simply find hobbies to do, right? It sounds so cliche, so normal, but it's like, that's the way you do it. You can find things to do, productive things to do. Could be reading, could be going to the gym, going out with your friends. But it's much better than you sitting down bored scrolling through TikTok. So find things to do to fill up the gaps in the meantime. You see, I want you to look at these 3 things as positive indicators. Even though they're negative things, I want you to look at them as positive indicators. The reason I say that is because I want you to look at them as indicators of what to do to fix your life. Most of the time, people don't know what to do to fix their lives. They don't know what they have to do to move from this point to this point. But I need you to look at these indicators as something positive, because it means that you know what to do to eventually fix and get the outcome that you want. Say we're doing some work, and we're actually trying to get some work done. We're doing some questions here, say for a maths paper or for an English paper. And then a difficult question comes up. Something that's a bit out of our comfort zone. A bit into the challenging area of, say, the zone of proximal development. Say we get to that question. Now the effort required to get a boost of dopamine has increased. Our brain has realized this and noticed it's actually a bit difficult now. We want to pick up our phones. We want to start scrolling because the task has gotten hard. The harder the task, the more likely you are to want to pick up your phone, because you know it will be easier to get the dopamine you want by picking up your phone. And then you get frustrated because you can't do the hard question and you can't do the difficult things. But that's the point. You're supposed to get frustrated. You're supposed to get angry. You're supposed to get pissed off at not being able to do the hard things. But once you do them, the payoff is 100 times better than being able to pick up your phone. Being able to pick up your phone and just do the work, it just seems too easy. And there's no reward to it, which is why it doesn't have any substance to it as dopamine. You see, picking up your phone and scrolling through social media is cheap dopamine. It's easy to get, but it doesn't have that much substance. It hasn't got that much value. And it's unreliable. Whereas doing the hard work now is expensive dopamine. It requires more effort, but the payoff is much more, and it's much more reliable and much better for you in the long term as well. You have to train your brain to lean into the difficulty, to lean into the unknown, the difficult tasks, because you don't know what it feels like to do the hard task and how good you feel by doing the hard task. You don't know what it feels like, so you have no incentive to move towards doing the hard task. See, I can explain to you what it feels like, what the temperature in the room is, what I'm feeling, or what I'm seeing while I'm doing the hard task, to give you some sort of idea of what to look for, or the positive indicators that you are doing the right thing. But you're going to have to do it yourself, because if you don't do it yourself, your brain's always going to hold you back with your personal beliefs, because it doesn't know what it feels like to do the hard work. So do the hard tasks. If they're difficult and the hard tasks come up to you and you know you have to pick up your phone because you want that sort of dopamine, don't pick your phone up and just do the hard task, because you train your brain to lean into difficulty. And once you do that, the more you do that, the more you're going to want to lean into difficulty, because you've realized the payoff after doing that is so much greater. A good way that I like to do this is genuinely just waking up in the morning and doing the hardest task that you have for the day right as you wake up. You wake up, get out of bed, sit on your chair, start doing the hardest task you have in the day. And within the first hour of the day, of the 1 hour, 15 hours that you're awake, you get the work done. The third one's anxiety, and I think this is a really interesting one. It's that people like to use their phones as a way to bring their attention from thinking about the future or the past to the present. Now, I feel like as much as it seems like a solution to the problem, it's not a good solution. So we have to think about this on the basis, right? It's that we're thinking about the future too much, we're overthinking. So we have to bring our focus back to the present. You see, anxiety is essentially having too many options and no priorities. So we have to think about what our priorities are and sort it out and choose a thing to make as our number one importance. That's first how we get rid of anxiety. But what we end up doing is we say, okay, our phone brings us to the present, so we don't have to think about the future or the past, but short term, because once you're off your phone, it comes flushing back. We use our phones to avoid the problems that we have at hand. So how do we find a way to stop doing that and to do something productive instead? Right, so there's a lot of tasks that can help you bring your focus to the present, and the most well-known ones are going to the gym, meditation, and reading. These three tasks will genuinely always bring your attention to the present and for the long term as well. Weightlifting in general brings your focus to one area, whereas you're trying to focus on the muscle and you can't help but only think about the place where you are. Meditation is genuinely the task of sitting down and bringing your attention back to your breath, back to the present moment. So whenever a thought pops up, you bring your attention back to your breath. And that's training your brain to be in the present moment. And then reading in general, brings your attention to the book that you're reading, to the present moment, to the hard task. Reading is a hard task. So if you do that as well while being present, look at that, you won't need your phone anymore. We all have or had crippling phone addictions. And it's something that we would really like to get rid of, because I know most of you know deep down that you don't want to be constantly stuck on your phone, because you know the bad side of it. The days that you spend the entire day scrolling, you don't feel good about that day. You don't feel proud, there's no pride involved. So you need to eliminate your phone usage. And these ways are how you do that. So if you have these problems and you can relate, I'm hoping that helps you. Thank you for listening. Go get it, man.